Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Rack. I'm Sal.
I'm Tiffany. Sorry, I was watching the preview.
Yeah, don't do that.
Well, it started moving. You paused it, and it was just like, I'm like, oh, I can
know.
see us.
I know. YouTube changed everything, as they often do, because it's a great way to get your systems working, is to constantly uproot everything that your user base learned.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. But before we do that, I wanted to get ahead of it. One, they changed everything, so if the show is a little wonky or anything, we're sorry for that. We're still trying to get our bearings, and the only way to do that is to actually do it live.
Yeah.
So, fuck it. We're doing it live.
That's right. I'll write it.
Classic. I'll write it. We'll do it live. No,
Yeah.
You'll write it. You can write it. I'll do it live.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a comic book show where we talk about the past week's books and then recap, review them, let you know what we thought about them. Then give you recommendations for books that are coming out this week that we think you should pick up. We're not going to do that today because shockwaves were sent throughout the comic book industry and we want to talk about it.
I have one, if we have time at the end, I have one book I want to talk about.
There you go. So
I left it in the other room because I'm a genius.
No, it's right there.
Fine. I'm even more of a genius than I thought.
I know.
Over here.
But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about Didio and his leaving DC Comics or being fired from DC Comics. But before we do that, welcome to the show. If you're watching this live, hey, guess what? You're a sponsor of the show and you didn't even know it. If you want to use a super chat and give us a question or comment, we will read it here on the show. And we will read it here on the show. And that money will go into the infrastructure that is ComicPOP, this YouTube channel that's been around for over 5 years.
That's right.
And we will, that's it. That's the whole... Yeah, that's all I can ask for.
Yeah. Also, we're both kind of sick, so...
Yes, so, if it's not... Do not adjust your sound settings.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Or our energy settings.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
Hey.
But, so with that, we will be answering Super Chats as they go. For example, Heartless Fang says, spending a sick birthday curled up watching you guys here. Thanks for all the content. Me too, man. I'm spending your
happy birthday.
Sick. Happy birthday,
and,
man.
I guess that's it's like you're hanging out with us then.
Yeah, and we can because we're not because we're all sick.
It's cool. Don't worry. We can't spread it around.
No, it's true.
It's fun times.
So, okay, here's the deal.
Let's do it.
All right, so what I want to do is break it down, the show, into a bunch of questions and answers, and answer them to the best of our abilities, because there's been a lot of chatter / misinformation that's been going out because of how poorly DC handled this situation, and that's par for the course at this point, honestly.
Well, I mean, I think that's par for the course for any company. They think they're doing it well enough, or they think that they've gotten ahead of it, and then it's if you took a moment and looked at it from the outside, it's wait, no.
Yeah, let's fire somebody on a Friday.
Yeah.
Hopefully the news cycle will tire itself out over the weekend, and by Monday, no one will be talking about it. Or 4 or 5 YouTubers will have a bunch of money because of it. So instead, we're going to break it down. I'm going to ask a bunch of questions and then try to answer them as best as I can. Please keep in mind, she is not a comic book professional. But... we have no problems throwing our voices out into the ether because here's the thing, more people are making more money off of this information or misinformation, and they are just as qualified as we are to talk about it. So, judge for as much as you can.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're just going to be chatting it up with you.
By the way, Saud El-Thani in the Super Chats saying hello. Hello.
How are you?
Mr. El-Thani, thank you so much for helping us out, and we'll see you guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you further in the chat. Colton Harris, what do you guys think would happen if Black Bolt burped? It's funny, we've talked about this, I think. It's probably been cut out of the shows that we've done, but I think there is voice behind a burp.
Depends. Sometimes you can speak while burping.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the sound from a burp, while it is gas-based, does reverberate off the vocal cords. I believe it would be, I don't know, just short of devastating.
Maybe. I mean, it could be like the rumblings of thunder then.
Yeah, it would more like it's a warning burp. I don't know. I feel like there would be some effect.
This is why Ethan can't be Black Bolt or have his powers.
No.
No.
Yeah, because he would destroy
it's just out of control.
Everything we have and everything we built.
Yes.
So here we go. The first question I want to ask is, what happened? We're going to go into what do we know? I heard. What does this mean for 5G? And then what does this mean for DC Comics? So let's start with what happened. What happened? Dan Didio was fired by DC Comics, or from DC Comics by Warner Brothers / AT&T on Friday. It was, as I understand it, not a mutual decision. That's all we know.
Right. Well, I mean, typically a firing is
Well, that's the thing.
not.
Well, sometimes there's an agreement, sometimes it's like, well, if you
then
leave...
they say it's an exit.
Right.
You're exiting.
Yeah, and he did not exit the company as far as we know. And that's the thing you got to add in there because we don't know. There has been no official statement. Although, in the wake of his termination, Didio did actually speak out officially about it and said he really appreciates all the kind things that his colleagues have said about him in public social media.
Right.
But he hasn't commented about it, nor has he refuted it. I'm willing to go on record and say Didio was fired by the higher-ups.
Right.
And he did not want to be. And that's why it was on a Friday. That's why it was so, quiet. There was no statement official. Hey, look. Oh, my God. I guess you got your internet set up, huh, buddy? Let's get into the super chats really quick. Will I am Golden. Sup, guys? Hope you feel better. And I was wondering if Didio deserved to hit the hate he gets. We'll get into that. But I will say very briefly, Didio asked for a lot of it, not just because he made creative decisions, but because of the nature of his position made him a target for ire that he both deserved and maybe didn't deserve.
Right.
So I'll say that, he occupied that job and did it to his ability.
Right.
Nick from Pluto, what's up, guys? I'm writing an essay about salmon right now for a comic book class. Wish me luck.
Good luck with that. That's a great topic, though. There's a lot of ways you can go on that.
Yeah.
I wish you much luck.
Yeah, represent Vertigo, man. Comics Explained has a question. Who is your favorite comic book YouTuber, and why is it Comics Explained? Well, it is Comics Explained. It's mostly because Comics Explained watches our show and pops into the super chat. You does not need a super chat. You could have just texted me, Rob.
It might also be his velvety voice.
It could be his silky smooth voice, his velvety charm.
His passion for comic books.
That's true.
His overall, jovial nature. There's a lot of reasons.
There's a lot to like.
A lot of reasons.
A lot of about Comics Explained.
Yeah.
But thank you, man, for that. Raj Patel, driving up from Virginia to New Jersey and listening along to you guys. Love the stream. Thanks for everything. Thank you, Raj. And I've done that drive, so watch your ass on 95. It's one road, a lot of cops. Zishanali Laka says, hello, sending some love from the UK.
Nice.
Do you have any opinions about the current Shazam run? I'm not really reading it. I read the first issue. I was like, okay, yeah, blah. I'm not a Shazam fan. So for me, it was this is as good as any Shazam run, which, doesn't appeal to me, but it wasn't bad. I didn't think it was a poorly constructed thing. It was just more Jeff Johns, right on. I get it.
Okay, that's fair.
But
I didn't mean to derail us, but when I read that, I was like,
I know,
that struck me.
Yeah, right?
That super chat struck me. It was awesome.
Yeah. So.
Bye, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with Rob. And good luck setting up, I guess.
Yeah, say hi to Mariah.
Yeah. So what happened? Didio was fired.
Yes.
And that's all we know. All we know is he was terminated. We have no idea why. We have no idea, whether it was a long time coming.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Well, no statement from
the company.
Anyone who is in, who has a real right to do so.
Exactly. That's the thing to pay attention to is that, the places you would expect or should expect to hear these kinds of announcements from have been silent.
Yes.
That you can infer a lot from that, but you can't write a news post about it and say it's fact due to it. All you can really say is these are the things I know. I know that Jeff Johns not said anything about it. You would assume, given Johns' connection to the company, the fact that he left chief creative officer and no longer worked there as a official member of the DC bullpen, suggests maybe there might be some reason for that, but that's inference. That's not true. That's just kind of what you can glean. You look at all the people. There was a lot of outpouring of support for Didio through social media, particularly on Twitter. I saw the day it was announced, blew up. Tons of people that I wouldn't expect to have weighed in and shown their support and said kind things, said all kinds of really, really supportive, nurturing things,
right?
And supported him in this time because, like I said, dude didn't ask for it. So it's never fun when somebody gets fired, particularly somebody that you know personally.
Right.
So there you go. But you can infer a lot about that because you're wow, even Chip Zdarsky weighed in on this. His was by far my favorite tweet about it.
It was amazing.
But people from both sides of the companies have said things, have weighed in. But then you're okay, but who didn't weigh in? And it's like, well, and Snyder did weigh in, though I was like, oh, he's been quiet. But dude was in Hawaii and he's with his family, so like, I get it.
Fair.
He still wrote like 2 really long tweets where he was like,
right.
we fought, but we're also like, but I respect the dude. So you're like, okay, who didn't weigh in? You could analyze that for weeks.
Right, and there could be many reasons. It could just be like they didn't feel like they had.
Well, and the reality is, it's Twitter. Like, oh, I just didn't read it, or I didn't see it, or I didn't think it was appropriate, or I didn't feel like it.
Right.
There's any number
of
reasons.
I don't use it.
I don't use
one,
it. I don't have a Twitter. Yeah, exactly. So what happened? We know what happened. Didio doesn't work at DC anymore.
There you go.
And we know that it was like because of something he did. Like because of the nature of what a firing is.
Right.
Boom. What happened? What do we know?
This is why you always clean your dishes when you're in the community sink.
Oh yeah, no,
okay?
Yeah, and why you don't microwave fish in the office.
Just saying, like these are reasons. These
right?
are possible reasons.
Could be. Yeah. Take note. But what do we know? What do we know about this so far?
Yeah.
We know that Didio was fired.
Yes, he
which
was.
is, I know it's like we've said that 1,000 times already in only like 10 minutes. But it bears repeating because that's literally the only thing that we've heard.
Right now. I mean, like, it's Monday. That doesn't mean that DC / Warner Brothers / AT&T / whoever isn't working on some sort of statement now that...
They better be. I mean, like, at this point, you should probably have worked on something. You probably should have anticipated based on anything. Like, remember when Dan Buckley left Marvel? Was it Buckley? In any case. Axel Alonso. Remember when Axel Alonso left Marvel? And everyone freaked out, and like Marvel was like took too long to issue a statement, and it was like, what are you doing?
Well, working in an office, like a smaller office than they are working in.
Yes,
and it is ridiculous the amount of drafts and people who have to sign off on something, and how like this one word will be like scrutinized over. Like I was just like, no, you just write something, and like maybe somebody checks it for spelling and grammar.
Yeah,
no. Like, the amount of channels that things have to go through, especially when you're talking about a larger corporation, they're like, I can't
and that's
imagine.
only on internal stuff.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about, like, how it's going to reflect on your institution, it's even more scrutinized. It takes longer. And while I appreciate that, that also adds credence to the whole, like, firing and suddenness aspect of it, because, like, there was no statement. And based on his leaving and its effect on the industry, particularly the reporting side of the industry, they should have anticipated a wake. And so the fact that they didn't have anything prepared and ready by Monday says to me that it was sudden.
Well, and it could
But again, inference.
Right, and everything we're pretty much going to say is going to be inference. It's going to just be speculation on our part. But it could also be indicative?
Yeah.
Yes. Of it being a Warner level decision.
Absolutely. Yeah. As opposed to a DC Entertainment.
Yeah. And I say that only because it's like Warner may not have thought it garnered that sort of attention. Because
that's why people, I think, are lobbing the like blame / connection to Warner's or AT&T.
Right. Where it's just like they're at like this level up here and they're like, there's no way anyone's going to care.
Yeah. We're talking about
news outlets.
Companies that are dealing in the billions, and we're talking about a company that like realistically only generates hundreds of thousands, maybe less than $10 million.
Right. Now,
you know,
do I agree with that? Like fundamentally, no, but like again,
we're also on that
thinking,
element. So.
They're thinking like big picture.
Exactly.
They're like at the end of the
they're
day,
like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like it could have literally been like a phone call of like, fire that guy, get him out of here, and then like, well, we really need to. I don't care.
Yeah, like what are we gonna say?
Well,
to who?
To who? Yeah, exactly. Oh no, Bleeding Cool has an article about it, which they didn't, by the way. Like they had a thing that's like Didio's fired, but they didn't do anything about the fallout, which blew my mind. That none of them, CBR, Newsarama, Bleeding Cool, any of them,
right,
weighed in after it. They all jumped on it when it was a story.
Yeah,
But then when the other story and the reason that I'm even making this a show happened, I was like, where are the other news outlets?
Yeah.
I mean, I get why Variety, The Hollywood Reporter aren't weighing in. But like, or even GameSpot or like IO9. But like, why, or IGN for that matter, but like, why not the only group? You know, I saw...
It could be they just literally wanted to wait for some more.
It could have been the
information.
Right. But the problem with that is, and the problem with waiting is that, like, opportunists won't.
It's true.
And as a result, like, the only narrative that comes out is that one. And you have to work twice as hard to dispel that narrative if you want to send out, like, real information.
Right, but that is not necessarily the news outlet's issue as much as it is the, like, company who's not providing said information.
No, it's true.
Now, whether or not they're going to spin a story or not, because 9 times out of 10, when a company puts a story out, like, about that, it's spinning it in their own favor while also not typically giving real, like, facts.
Yeah, which is...
Because they're like, I don't want to look like a jerk.
Right, it's two-faced, it's horseshit, but I get it, and it's, like, how it's always been.
Yeah.
But which also blows my mind as to why it took so long. Mm-hmm. So long to the point where we're doing the show and there isn't one yet.
Yeah.
So...
Unless they're coming out with it right now.
Yeah, but that's what we know. Yeah. All we know is that he's been fired, and that it was... And the rest of it is inference, is suggestion, is critical thinking.
Sure.
Which I really, like, I think is, like, part of my takeaway here, which is, like, critical thinking is very important if you want to weigh in on these kinds of things, and if you want to analyze this kind of news, and if you want to, like, talk about it. Because critical thinking is so important to, particularly when you get news or information from the internet. Mm-hmm. And that's why I am not a news outlet, why ComicPOP did not get into, like, the comic book reporting arm, and we could have, and we were very close to, like, working with other groups and becoming a news outlet. I was like, I don't want to be that.
Right.
Because I don't want to be held to that kind of standard, because I know I'll hold myself to that standard.
Yeah.
And I don't have, like, I don't have the chops to be a news person.
We're
nor
not
do
Lois
I have
Lanes over here.
Well, nor do I have, like, the tenacity and the strength of character to just be like, I'm not gonna go to every con. I'm not gonna, like, jump at every story. I want a life.
It's fair.
I just don't want to live like that.
Right.
So we didn't go in that direction. But, like, part of the reason why we're not that is because we don't have the burden of responsibility is not on us.
Right.
But if you are a news outlet, kind of the burden of responsibility is on you just to uphold the truth.
Right.
And the facts, at least the facts.
Okay.
Not the capital T truth.
Mm-hmm.
You want that, I'm sure there's a religious institution nearby.
Sure.
Then we're gonna move on to the next step.
Okay.
We'll get into that in just a second, but I wanted to address some of the super chats. Catfish107, a chance to throw you a buck as a thank you.
Thank you.
Shout out to Rob for sending me to you guys. Oh, that's nice. Thank you very
so
much, Catfish. And thank you, Rob. Post you leaving the chat for sending people
but
here.
Still, thank you so much.
But thank you, Catfish. Comics Misexplained. Let me tell you something, Rob. ComicPOP is the best YouTube channel of all time. Thank you, Comics
Man,
let me tell you something, man. We're the best. But thank you, man, and thank you, Rob. But thank you, Comics Misexplained, for your support.
Yeah.
Algae Try. Hell yeah, it's comic to pop. Parrot. I love seeing, like, clip art and other images. That's a party parrot right there.
Whatever. I can upgrade.
Z-Berm. Sal, what are your personal feelings towards Didio? I wanted to kind of, like, keep that relegated to another show. There is going to be another show tomorrow where we're going to talk about, like, what Didio did at the company, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. But
or ugly.
Right? Good, bad, or ugly. Hey, check out that show here on this channel. But I will say, Z-Berm, that my feelings towards Didio are separated. It's funny. Somebody got really uptight about one of our episodes where we of back issues, where we talked about one of Snyder's books, Scott Snyder, that is, and they were, like, upset and offended and, like, deeply troubled by the fact that we could, like, laugh about his work and kind of, like, poke fun at it when we've also had him here on the channel, and he's, like, I have his phone number, and, like, you know what I mean, like, we are not friends, but we are certainly, colleagues.
Yeah.
On some respect.
Some sort of
he's
peers.
Up here. Yeah, where he looks down on me. But, like, the point is, we know each other. And he's like, you have a responsibility to be, like, respectful. And I'm like, that's not what we... Like, not that that's not what we do here, but it's like, there's a difference between ass-kissing and, like, being critical. And as long as there's, like, an element of respect, I like to think that, like, we can do both.
Yeah.
Like, we can have fun and also, like, still be, colleagues in some regard. But when it comes to Didio, I cannot like his decisions, but also like him as a person, and I will tell you that I've met him twice in my life. And both times he was very friendly and magnanimous.
Right.
And I have also known people to have worked with, for, and side by side with him. I've met them, I've known them, I know them personally enough to be able to say that we are friends, and I trust their interpretations. Mm-hmm. And I will say that everyone that I know who has worked personally with Dan Didio liked him as a person.
Okay.
And the only real friction came from creative, sparring.
Right.
Which seems the most abrasive and, like, it has the most bark with no bite. You know, where you really fundamentally have a problem with the direction of a character who isn't real, and so you feel a responsibility to like steward them on to the next like level.
Yeah.
And someone is telling you fundamentally that they don't agree with that philosophy entirely, you're gonna have venom and spit, like you're gonna rage and have red face and everything. But at the end of the day, you're also gonna be like, but we, the human beings involved in this, have a mutual respect, and moreover, we're friends. You know, you even if you look at just the U.S. Senate, like there are politicians who will fiercely argue with each other, and yet they also all have lunch in the same commissary.
Right.
Like,
right.
You don't have to take your work home with you.
Right. There's something about him. I don't know him at all as a person. I've never met him.
Yeah.
That, well, again, I may not agree with his choices and his decisions.
Exactly.
I do respect from what I have seen and heard. Doesn't mean in every instance, but like his like ability to like, I've made this choice
and then stick with it and not change at the winds. Like he is immobile.
Yeah, like he makes his decisions. Like, you know, he's technically like a team leader when you think about it. And when there is ire to be had,
he takes it.
And there is something to be said for that. Whether or not he deserves it or not, he ends up taking it.
Right.
And I'm thinking specifically about like the Heroes in Crisis stuff.
Yeah.
And how like it was again, we're not here to talk about Heroes in Crisis and
despite the background.
Yes. Or, you know, like, you know, how you felt about it, or but like at the time there was a lot of like blame being thrown towards Tom King, towards Dan Didio, and Tom King was like, it's me, like I made these choices, and Didio was just like, I'll just take it, man, like I don't care.
You didn't have to say that.
Right. And there is something to be said about that being a leader and like being like, I'm technically in charge of all of you, and so if there is ire to be had, I should be taking it on.
It's true.
And I'm like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, like he you know, whether or not he was I will argue he was pretty good at his job. He did the job of co-publisher, and he advocated for his industry.
Right.
And so I applaud his efforts. Like, and what's more, when he says, like, you could actually point to quotes from him where you're like, oh my God, why are these things happening to Dick Grayson? And then you can find a quote of Dan Didio's. It's like, I don't like Dick Grayson. I think he makes Batman look stupid. I think the only person that is essential to the Bat family is Alfred, and that includes Commissioner Gordon. And I'm like, no. Right. But also, right on, man. Like, you said that, you stand by it, and listen, the evidence is there. Clearly, you believe it enough to enforce it in your books. But yeah, so that's my personal feelings. Brian G, hey guys, been following you for a while. Never really caught the stream. Figured I'd pop in before heading to class. Thanks for the great content. Brian, I'm sure you're in class right now, but hopefully you're catching on the rewind. Thank you very much for being here live.
And thank you.
Appreciate it.
And good. I hope you had a good class.
Yeah, hope class went well. Don't fall asleep or skip it. It's important.
Yeah.
It costs you money. Langley M. Neely, my brother-in-law died today. I'm very sorry to hear that, man. That
sorry,
sucks.
man.
That is a tremendous loss. I'm still in shock. He introduced me to comics in the 90s as a 90s kid. This super chat is sent in his honor to Norman Davis. R.I.P. Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never easy because, like, you know, the rest of the world goes on and you're left, like, with your feelings. So, you know, I hope good memories.
Yes. Outweigh.
Help to get you through this.
That's true. Nilfinity Gaming, do you think this will pave the pathway for Jeff Johns to return to some level of DC leadership? One can only assume. And I don't have any evidence to support that theory. I know that Jeff Johns, after leaving, his position at DC, he generated a company not unlike Mark Miller did. I'm sure he's making more money this way, and I'm sure he's enjoying being able to call the shots and not have to take on this kind of bullshit. Like, I'm sure he does. He likes the fact that nobody's making videos about what an asshole he is. So, on one step, I would like to see Jeff Johns go back and take over. I, on the other hand, understand entirely why he would never want to do that.
Sure. Are we going to talk about this particular subject later on?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if I should weigh in
Yeah, because we're going to talk about what this means for DC.
Okay.
But, so actually, it's a good transition. We'll go into I Heard.
Okay.
What did you hear? People have said to me, literally, Friday that happens, Sunday we're at a comic book store, the retailer tells me, so AT&T's closing DC Comics. What do you think about that? And I'm like, what? And then I opened Twitter, and my feed was exploding with people asking me my opinions about AT&T closing DC Comics.
Right.
And the reality is, what you've heard might not necessarily be what's going on, or, hey, what you heard might be a shade of truth from people talking who either shouldn't be talking or who were talking or inferring things that they had heard. And so it's a problem because there is no true good source of reliable information based on rumor and hearsay. And it's part of the reason why you gotta have some kind of official word, even if it's horseshit, it's doublespeak, it's a corporate, like, you know, perfectly laid out statement that's a screenshot of a piece of paper. It sucks, but at least it helps to mitigate that kind of thing.
Yes.
Where you hear things like a person loses his job, a person that is one of 4 people in charge of the comic book publisher DC Comics was 26% of the market share in 2019. That's not 50%.
Yeah.
That's not even, like, you know what I mean? Like, 26% of the market share, 4 people in charge. You got Bob Harris, Dan Didio, Jim Lee, and, you know, that's where we are. Right now, we got Bob Harris, editor-in-chief. You got Jim Lee being publisher. And you have a president of DC. I forgot her name. But the president, I forgot about her.
Diane?
No, she got axed, and they replaced her with a Warner Brothers person.
Right.
Pam, I believe her name is.
Okay.
In any case, so you got 4 people at DC, now 3.
Right.
The ship is still able to go forward.
Yeah, more than likely everything's on fire, and even if he did get fired, typically when someone gets fired, there's a transitionary period, especially in a role like this, where it's not just like, you're out! Like, they need to, like, have them come back for X amount of days in order to make sure things go
I doubt he's coming back in this particular case, but the other thing is, co-publisher.
Okay.
Jim Lee can do that.
Someone I worked with got fired.
Yes, like fired.
Like, okay, so hilariously enough, the Friday before a long break got fired. And then had to come back.
Right.
Or was like offered the opportunity to come back so that they
transition.
could transition to the next person taking on that role.
Yes.
That person did probably not want to come back.
I doubt anyone wanted them to come back just from the awkwardness. But
right.
yes.
The whole thing was very awkward, and like there were a lot of like reasons behind it.
Yeah.
But like, so like, I'm like, there might be either there is a transitionary plan, or like they'll make one.
Right.
You know,
no matter what. I mean, and I think that there are enough rungs in the ladder at DC. You don't need Didio to come back to transition. The only reason you'd need him to come back is like for passwords, you know, like
and that is the
just
kind of
logistical
stuff.
Kind of shit.
Logistical kind of stuff, or like, you know, the fact is, it's like how much is he in charge of the 5G event?
Yeah, and that's another thing.
Like,
is
obviously, I feel like he must have shared with somebody. Someone else must have that plan.
Well, we'll talk about 5G in a minute because that's a whole other thing. But like, I wanted to talk about the I heard aspect of this because it's so much the argument, and it is whatever you've heard. Like we just got through with what we know, right?
Yeah.
These are the things we know. That's it. So as such, there is inferences you can make from what we know, but what you've heard may not necessarily be what is or what was or what's going to happen. And part of the effort to differentiate between what we know and what we've heard is critical thinking and scrutinization. And I don't want to lecture, but I do want to say that like when you read anything, you must check your sources.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's up to you to determine what are reliable sources. And I'm not here to differentiate what is and what is not a reliable source. But you got to check your sources.
Right.
And when it comes to news outlets or blogs that masquerade as news outlets, that is something, that very much is a skill you must have in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Is differentiating between news, opinion, and blogs, and hearsay.
Right.
And having that skill is like, it's like a muscle. You have to train it, you have to learn, you have to have a certain level of scrutiny for everything in order to have the kind of cynicism to say, what I read, why is that bullshit? Oh, like, you know what I mean? And like, I could see the argument being made, like, where it's like, well, you don't like anything, you don't believe in anything. And it's like, no, it's like, I've been fooled enough times, I've been tricked enough times, I've been wrong enough times for me to go, well, I better check my facts.
Yeah.
And that's why, one, we're not a news outlet. Number two, it's like, why I'm saying it's very important for you to, when you hear something, like, why is it every April 1st,
around April
1st, we get some bullshit thing that blows up for a few hours, if at least.
Yep.
That says all kinds of nonsense, and we always fall for it.
Because it's Liar's Day.
That's Liar's Day. That's where liars thrive. But it's true. But every day is Liar's Day when you need to rely on people clicking on your website to make revenue.
Sure.
And when it comes to what you've heard and differentiating and disseminating information, it doesn't. I'm not asking from you much.
Right.
Besides going, maybe. Like, when you read a headline.
Yeah.
Marvel Comics to acquire DC. How do I feel about that?
Right?
But more importantly, is that horseshit? Let's find out. And usually, you'll find, with an article with that kind of sensationalized headline, that's not the case.
Right. And I mean, it's funny. This skill is something you probably acquired in school. Every major paper you ever had to write had to have a works cited page where it was like, where did you get this information?
Well, yeah.
Was it on Reddit? Because I can't count that.
No. Well, I grew up in an era where Wikipedia was not a reliable source.
Right.
And you know how you skirted that? You got your article, you go to Wikipedia, you find the source that Wikipedia is using, and you go from there. It's easy enough to find your sources at this point.
But you've been doing it forever.
And that's the thing, is that,
So
like,
you
if you don't do it forever, like, you gotta learn. And you just gotta, like... But it's just practice. And it's just...
And sometimes you'll have, like, that emotional, like, hit initially.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah!
There was something that just came out recently for me that has nothing to do with comic book.
Oh, yeah.
That I, like, had a real emotional, like, no! And then I was like, wait a minute. What is the likelihood that this is going to happen?
Right.
Let me pull it back for a second.
Exactly.
You know, and, like, not go on a big...
like rant or tirade or feel bad. Like, or just the emotional baggage of carrying that with you.
Right. And
or the resentment of being like hearing something great and then turning out it's bullshit.
And the fact is that that instance or that fact may or may not happen.
Right.
And like either way, like, okay, like
I'll
deal with that when it's like actually happening.
When it's real. Right? And even then, like, you're talking about the volatility of the entertainment market.
Yeah.
Which everything can happen or nothing can happen.
Right.
How many times I've been promised a Mallrats 2?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just...
Yeah.
One time, Kevin Smith promised us a View Askew-themed mini-golf course. You could see what things stick in my craw, but, like, he promised that they were going to buy, in New Jersey, a mini-golf course. He was going to make a View Askew-themed mini-golf course. And that was happening. Money was spent. They pointed out where it was going to be. And then it just was never brought up again. You're like, you gotta know, and that's the other thing, is that, like, some of these names that you see over and over again, you recognize, and you go, oh.
You should do it again. There's a defunct one.
I know.
It's fine. Anyway.
That's a money pit. But
what else have you heard?
I've heard that AT&T is going to close down DC Comics.
Sure.
I've heard that Didio was fired because of the poor reception to 5G.
Okay.
I've heard, those are pretty much the two big ones.
Right.
Because it's like, whether, like, how the Didio was fired because of 5G thing. Yeah, you can infer that. Because 5G was the next thing that was being worked on.
Sure. And
you've heard from sources or secondhand or thirdhand sources that certain creators were unhappy with this initiative, and you know that those creators had butted heads with Didio in the past, and so as such, you can assume that 5G was his baby or something. Like, I mean, the fact is, Didio had been taking selfies of a timeline he's working on for DC Comics. So clearly, he was working on this thing. It was his baby from what you're inferring, what you assume.
Sure.
But even then, like...
But you could also infer other things, that, like, maybe he saw the writing on the wall and he kept, like, trying to push it out there, trying to, like, garner, like, backing behind it so that, like, he could, like, solidify his position. You could infer that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But, like, if you're inferring that he was fired due to 5G, that indicates to me less of a, like, top-tier issue, because it's like...
What the hell is like, why would AT&T care about that? Now, I believe that 5G was called that because of AT&T.
Sure, and
that's only because it is such a terrible name and idea that it can only come from a cell phone company. But and like the other thing is, like, 5G, like, you only called it that because that's what they're called. Like,
right.
That sucks.
I could see that.
But again, I'm not right. I just think that.
Right, and I'm saying that, like, if he was fired over the reception to 5G, I find it interesting that it would be before numbers came in.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that the money talks.
And I don't know how early on comic book retailers put in their orders.
Right. It's a few, I think it's a few months ahead of time.
So, what is it happening?
October?
So, like, we're kind of far out from that. I don't know. Like, if it was DC Entertainment doing the action, they're more paying attention. And
right. They know what, like, which way the winds blow, or at least they ought to by now.
Right.
But AT&T Warners, I doubt sincerely they really know how the comic book industry works.
Right. And like, here's something else that, like, I guess this isn't a what you heard.
No,
I actually just think this fits into either of the other options. Yeah, no.
But we are moving from there, so we're transitioning.
Right. So, like, if we're talking about something else that could be inferred, that if it were a Warner AT&T decision,
sure,
perhaps it's that they wanted to have someone on that ground level that they were in charge of, and maybe that means Johns isn't coming.
Right. Maybe instead you're going to see an AT&T executive or a Warner Brothers executive.
Or like someone who they think that way they're like, okay, we got our guy on the ground.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know,
they heard enough about this one guy that they're like, okay, we could fire him, and
right,
maybe it's
and
not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the fact is, like, how many of the people at the administrative level of DC or the executive level of DC are comic book people versus business people.
Right.
And it's like, well, we installed one of our own people as president, but we still have nothing but comic book people. One of them is drawing variant covers for some reason. Like, you know, from their perspective, they're like, what does he even do?
I don't know what a variant cover is.
I don't know what that means.
But I know he does it.
Yeah, but I know all he does is that. So what am I doing here? Like, we need to have more of our own people on the ground. And the fact is, that's how companies work. The only way Marvel actually got out of bankruptcy, besides betting the farm on, like, movies, the way they managed to stay insolvent was by getting a corporate CEO.
Right.
By getting a CEO in charge who ran companies.
Sure.
That's their job.
Right. And again, that's something you could infer.
Like, but again,
could that have been...
Yeah, could that have been a reason?
Could it have been that, like, if that is the case, and that, like, it was from top tier, that they just came up with, like, a reason? Maybe there was something that happened, it really wasn't a big deal, but they're like, turned it into a fireable offense.
Right, yeah, exactly. Maybe they wanted to get rid of him the whole time, or for a while, or maybe they're getting constant complaints, like, from other people who they want to keep more than him. But again, we don't know. And I don't want to assume, because opportunists will insert their own narrative, and rather than entertain that line of thinking, let's all focus on the facts and then talk about opinion later.
Right.
And when we talk about opinion, make sure to stipulate it's an opinion versus like, this is what's you know why Didio got fired. Like, you don't actually. Like, you don't, and neither do I. And neither does he. Like,
not Dan.
Not Didio. He definitely knows why he's fired. If he doesn't, then we have bigger problems at DC than we thought.
Yeah.
But like Leroy says, hey guys, love the channel. Currently catching up on Back Issues episode 185. Spider-Man 2099. Keep it up. Thanks, Leroy. Thanks for
so
watching.
Much.
By the way, if you are not watching our show Back Issues, check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Flywheel Shyster helping us out in the super chats.
Thank you.
The fake Grant Morrison help us out in Big Bad Way. Thank you very much, fake Grant Morrison. I don't know what that means.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Does that mean you're Irish, or like, you know what I mean? Because he's Scottish. You know, I don't know. But might have not liked Didio pivots. Reactions to his firing from industry professionals does highlight for me his role in view of the audience versus that of coworkers. Yeah, exactly. Like, his coworkers cared about him.
Yeah.
By and large.
You may not have agreed with him, and I certainly have worked with people like that, where I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I don't agree with what they're saying. They're a good person.
Exactly. No, I watched a little video that he that was from their transition from DC moving to Burbank, and like he got it was him giving this speech of like rallying the troops and being like, we're moving, but it doesn't mean you're all getting fired. I believe most of them did get fired anyway, but but he got really choked up, and people were crying, and I was like, this is right. And they were not crying because they thought they were getting fired. Like, they were crying because he
was emotional
because he was putting himself out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's sweet. Slightly off topic, but have you guys been keeping up with the Fraction Jimmy Olsen? No. I should be, but I'm just not.
Is it Matt Fraction?
Yeah.
Oh, it seems like something I might do.
I know. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to. Jimmy Olsen, I just don't care.
Okay.
Like, you know.
Superman's buddy.
I know. I gotta read, Ryan Craig, unrelated question. Would you and Tiff ever reflect on your history in teaching, like an episode of Elseworlds or a separate video? Love you guys.
That would be way more on his side. I don't teach.
Yeah, and my teaching stories are boring. Nobody wants to hear about me being a teacher.
Almost had the chance.
Yeah, you did. not so much.
Didn't work out.
No, but that's...
But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do work in a school environment.
Yes.
But as a staff member.
Right.
But I still get that sweet faculty discount.
And snow days when they occur.
Yes, well, that too.
Dark Knight Nation, thank you for inspiring me to read comics beyond just the spectacle. It's a medium with such unique storytelling potential that folks don't consider. Lightning bolt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree, man. Thank you. That's very true. Rusky 910 just got here, so someone may have already asked this, but how long did you think he's known this was coming? I think that he didn't see it coming. And I think that the reason for that is because Bob Harris, Didio, and Jim Lee have been with DC for a while.
Yeah, Didio is it's like over a decade?
Yeah.
No, is it a decade? Was it 2010 or 2012?
I think he came in 2010.
Yeah, so it's decade.
So it's been over a decade.
Give or take, depending on what month.
But the people that work there, and the people that they've brought in, and the people that are at the executive level are, I would call them entrenched.
See,
or at least they thought they were.
Sometimes, like, there could be, like, this environment. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't even, like, it's not even, like, necessarily a thing, but there's, like, a feel in the office environment where it's, like, something's wrong.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, his thing, if there's any credence to any of the hearsay that's been going on over the last 72 hours, then he knew. Because
I could easily see it either way. Like, I could easily see him not, like, being completely blindsided by this, and I could also see him, like, sensing something might be going on, but maybe he wasn't 100% when it would happen or what would happen exactly.
I think that Didio must have... I would assume that he felt like this 5G thing might be his last shot.
Right, okay.
But yeah. Atomic Experience, Dan's removal causes a lot of mixed feelings that I have problems articulating, but here's this tenor.
Thank you so much.
Experience. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, man. But thank you so much. Deconaton says, tuning in from work real quick. Love you guys. Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Hopefully you are still working. And Meow Nyan.
Meow Nyan.
Oh, man, where'd he go? Here we go. Now that Jim Lee is the sole publisher at the moment, do you think we will see Wildstorm come back yet again? But I guess I shouldn't hold my breath for it. Anyways, thanks always for a great show. Thank you, man. We had Warren Ellis, who did a book called Wildstorm, 12 issues or more, I think. Yep. Critically acclaimed. Everybody really loved that series. Well, not everybody. I thought it was incredibly boring, but it was still incredibly well drawn. John Davis Hunt, great stuff. He does Shadow Man coming out. Check it out.
Yeah.
But I don't think so, and I think because Jim Lee is co-publisher, I think that the reason why they're not doing a lot of Wildstorm stuff isn't because Didio was like, I don't think that's a good idea, Jim, no. Like, I don't think it was that. I think it's more like Jim Lee's just not interested
It's just going to be variants as far as the eye can see.
I think Jim Lee is more interested in drawing Batman standing or being adjacent to a gargoyle.
Hey,
just maybe,
to be fair,
could be in the rain.
I do like seeing that.
I love Jim Lee's art. I'm not arguing with it, but I'm saying, like, I don't know if... I've speculated in the past. I don't think Jim Lee has as much reverence for Wildstorm as like, McFarlane has for Spawn or Larson has for Savage Dragon. Like, I think the old Image guys, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Valentino loves Shadowhawk as much as Todd loves Spawn.
Right.
I don't think that Jim Lee loves Wildstorm as much as we do.
Yeah, for speculating, I think we'll see, Wildcats come to the DC Universe app.
Oh, yeah. Well, when are we going to get the Wildcats cartoon on the DC Universe app?
Right.
Right now, it's actually better because you can get it for free on YouTube.
Yes.
You can watch every episode.
It's true. I think that possibly, again, opinion, that with this having happened, I don't see much in the way of crazy shakeups.
I think you're going to see a lot of Batman and Superman.
I think there's going to be a lot of just...
Yeah. I think
a bit.
I think that Tynan being on Batman was the best decision. Because now it's like, okay, just let James do his thing.
Just ride it out for a minute. Let's just let the pieces fall.
Yeah. W Vang 0013, with Didio out of DC, do you think a new Marvel DC crossover is more likely to happen now? I believe Didio was one of the key figures at DC that prevented a new crossover from happening. I've talked about this at length. If you haven't already, we did a little video, Marvel DC crossover. I have a pitch for how it can work. It has nothing to do with Marvel and DC actually making their own books. I think it's a great idea. Try to check it out. But I will say that Levitz was the reason why there was no crossover. It was because Quesada said in public that DC was garbage. And Quesada used to work for DC. He used to draw for them, and he did not leave on good terms. And he had things to say while they were working on the JLA Avengers crossover, and Paul Levitz was at the executive level at that point, and he had said, and if you look up, I think there's a quote from him where he's like, we will never work with them as long as Joe Quesada is still there. Now, Joe Quesada, of course, is chief operating officer. He's not creative officer anymore, but he's he is still technically at Marvel, but he has nothing to do with the comics.
Sure, but he's still there.
He's still technically there, but Levitz is not. Okay. And I have quoted Didio as saying when it refers to crossovers, he never said, I hate Quesada or I'll never work with Marvel. It was more that, the company line. Because even Cebulski's weighed in on the Marvel-DC crossover where he said, we're really more focused on our own thing.
Sure.
I mean, look at the Infinity Warps. Obviously, we were trying to cash in on people's nostalgia for Amalgam without actually using Marvel or without using DC. Stupid idea. I think it was terrible, but moving on.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think that Didio leaving is the solution. I think that it's more about... Because here's the thing. I think it's more about...
Don't burn your bridges, people. Don't do that.
Yeah, I want more Marvel DC crossovers. No one would be more happy about it than me to see it happen. I will say, DC has the publishing rights for JLA Avengers.
Do they really?
Yes.
Wow. How'd they get that?
In the negotiations. My guess is...
Would Marvel get the toy rights?
Right? That would be a friggin' quagmire. We're lucky, amazingly enough, when they did the DC versus Marvel back in 96, they had trading cards.
I'm just imagining,
I can't believe they got
awesome big toy packs.
I would love to see that.
With, Superman.
Yeah, no, it's
Spider-Man.
Superboy, Spider-Man, Spider-Boy.
There you go.
Boom. You get the amalgam and
you want the amalgam? I was just thinking just the two.
Oh, I'd like that too, but
Okay.
And give that license to McFarlane. No, Hasbro's got it. Hasbro's doing a great job.
I was saying now, so I just got rid of Superboy. I'm like, no, Superman.
But yeah, I don't think it's in the cards.
Okay, not yet.
I want it to be, and
let's put those positive vibes out there.
Yeah, come on. In the spirit of collaboration, come on, guys. Just call IDW and have them publish the books for you. Lucha Dandy with Didio gone. I'm curious if 5G is even going to continue. I'm willing to bet there's going to be a lot of changes to it as it does proceed. Great transition to what does this mean for DC 5G?
Good question.
What does Didio's firing have to do with 5G? What does it mean? I've heard a lot of talk, like you're saying. Maybe 5G is canceled. Maybe 5G will continue. I've read recently, I think there was not a statement, but there's rumblings that 5G will still roll out. My guess would be that 5G will continue in some form because it takes a lot of time to make comics. It takes a lot of time to draw those comics, write them, plan them. It takes a lot of time to transition. You can't just come up with a brilliant idea like convergence every day. To have a transitional period, you had to have something in place. When DC moved to Burbank, convergence took place. It was stupid and terrible and nobody liked it, but it still happened and it took that spot. And you need something to occupy that spot. You can't just pull a shit together. I would actually prefer if 5G rolled out and then was quickly abandoned or ignored, rather than them trying to pull a publishing initiative out of their ass for the next 6 months that replaces everything Didio just did. Because you were required to have no fewer than 100 moving parts. Artists, writers, inkers,
I know,
colorists, printers, you got the variant covers, retailers.
So, what's interesting about that is if we knew a little bit more about how quickly DC can turn over a comic, we would know how much time they had before it was meant to roll out.
And I'm sure they don't want us to know that.
Pull back on.
Yeah.
Because I was going to speculate, or not even speculate, but throw out a random idea.
Sure.
That has no bearing on anything.
It's not real.
Or no fact behind it.
Fair enough.
But what if they took 5G and instead put it under Black Label?
Right.
It's all written.
Yeah,
they
it's
just
all done.
Change the cover.
Yeah, literally, you just keep everyone where they are. Maybe
you take the stories that were going possibly into Black Label, you pull them back out and put them into the main continuity, and you just push 5G over there.
Because the thing is, with Black Label doesn't mean anything. So you could have 5G be Black Label, and then when it's done, if everyone loved it, that's how it is now. Right? I mean, it doesn't,
or they could, again, another wild, just plucking it out of the air.
Yeah.
They could take, they could be like, okay, hey, Snyder, you done with that,
Death Metal
2? You done with the sequel?
Yeah.
Because, how about you just change that ending? You crisis this up.
And I've heard, and this is a rumor, that it was going to be a crisis. That Death Metal was going to transition into 5G, and Snyder had a real problem with that. And that was the issue. Now that's rumor, and I don't know this, and I know Scott Snyder, and I will say out loud, he's never texted me about this. We've never talked.
No.
Solemnly swear. But like the fact is, like, I've heard that rumor before that Snyder had a real problem with 5G and didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Okay.
But I believe he's going to leave DC soon.
Right, but even rumor. But even if it wasn't going to lead into 5G, they could just be like, do a crisis.
Yeah, do another crisis.
Give us a crisis.
I think it's a horrible idea because,
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying, like, here are some thoughts.
Yeah, I would say...
Do with them as you will.
Here's a suggestion.
Okay, a real one?
Yeah. Do a Marvel DC crossover.
There's not enough time.
Sure there is.
No, there isn't. Not based on how the last one went and how long it took them to get through that. Like,
you talking about DC versus Marvel, or you talking about JLA Avengers?
Doesn't matter.
Because JLA Avengers was just one book. 4 issues.
When did that come out?
2003.
Did it really?
Yeah. That was the last one.
But was that the one that took forever?
Well, yeah, because they started in 82.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like...
Yeah. No, but I'm saying, like...
so many, like...
DC versus Marvel 2, it's garbage. Give it to Ron Mars, have him draw it, or write it.
There's too many moving parts.
Such a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No.
But, yeah, Rodney Coverdale says, hey, guys, great job. My favorite channel. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Rodney.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Adam Groves, y'all are awesome. Thanks. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
I don't know why I said all right before. Other than, like, my brain was, like, still, like, thinking about what was going to happen to 5G.
I know. Rusky says, how could a company like DC even be shut down? Even though comics aren't a high-profit market, don't they still count the revenue of merchandising and licensing? Yes, they do. We will talk more about that in a minute. But But I wanted to say, just in response to your question, DC could easily be shut down because it doesn't actually generate a ton of revenue, proportionately speaking.
Yeah.
There is no rumor that has any basis in reality, or at the very least in fact, to suggest that DC is going to be shut down.
Right.
The time when DC was the most in jeopardy of being in tumult was when Warner's was going to be acquired by AT&T, and the antitrust situation was going on, and there was a belief that that maybe Warner's was too big as it was, and maybe we should split it up entirely so that AT&T could absorb Warner Brothers.
Right.
And so as a result, maybe all these properties could go all over the place, and maybe DC Comics, because it's so small, despite its IP, could be forced to be separate and then be its own publishing line or be absorbed by another company.
Right.
That was when I was the most concerned that the DC was going to be destroyed.
That's fair.
Or absorbed. Aaron Rowland helping us out. Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you.
And Adam Thenhaw says, just watched Harley Quinn's Savage Screen. Great show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dover on DC Universe. We watched Harley Quinn. It's a fun show.
We sure did.
It's a good show.
Yeah, it really is.
I like it a lot. And Rusky number 10 says, AT&T executive fired over 5G reception. That's the headline. Save the headline. We can reuse it in a year. Also, was he fired? Who even has the authority to fire Didio? Well... Sorry, let me look at that.
Oh, yeah.
AT&T executive fired over 5G reception. Okay, so there's lots to unpack from that comment. Who has the authority to fire Didio? Anyone at the executive level above him. So, DC is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. Anyone at Warner Brothers who is in the executive level. Warner Brothers is owned by AT&T. Anyone from the AT&T executive level. So any executive outranking the co-publisher. Yeah, the president could fire Dan Didio.
Yeah, I think
the president of DC Entertainment could fire
Right,
Didio.
I think sometimes it's one of those things where it's okay, someone who was in charge of literally the cell phone, if they were the executives of the cell phone.
Right, yeah, he's not going to, they're not going to fire Didio.
Or he's but he could influence someone who directly could.
Yes.
To then fire that individual.
Right.
They may not be able to actually put out the order, but they could be a reason that someone might.
Right. Bernadette Edwards says, WDW executive, why are we paying this Jim Lee person to be Jim Lee? I mean, honestly, I don't know what Jim Lee does as co-publisher. I don't know what that job means. You know what I mean?
I'm sure
I know what an editor-in-chief is. I know what a president is. I don't know what a co-publisher...
Well, they're both co-publishers.
I know, which is I know what Didio did. I guess Jim Lee just did it also.
Yeah, or maybe he had different responsibilities, or he was I will take on this role, I will take on this title, I'm going to do only these few things, I'm still going to draw occasionally, and I'll go to events where people recognize me as Jim Lee,
right,
drawer of X-Men.
Yeah,
creator of Wildcats.
Yeah, creator of Wildcats, Jim Lee. Nerdy Knight, hey guys, you inspired me to make a YouTube channel about comics, anime, video games, and I want to thank you for that. Do you have any advice for me? You're welcome. Enjoy. Good luck. No, he said thank you.
I know. It's just...
You're welcome. Close. No, but yeah, thank you very much for that, man. I will say, use your tags, smartly title your videos, make engaging thumbnails. Your sound is your key, is your
best friend.
Best friend. People will forgive bad video if they have great sound.
Yeah, they like potatoes. It's cool.
That's right. Well, who doesn't?
All right, so let's go back to the 5G thing.
Yes.
Like,
what does this mean for 5G? It means I remember Bleeding Cool literally like an hour ago posted an article about how 5G was still going to roll out in October.
Okay.
I believe, regardless of what DC or what
based on
nothing.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess
based on hearsay and rumor and whatever source they have.
I guess it really depends on if this was a snap decision on Friday.
Yes.
Then other outlets or other industries may not even know any more than that. So it's Bleeding Cool might have
a friend on the inside.
Friend over at Diamond. Diamond wouldn't know yet what was happening if they didn't have a plan.
Nope.
If this was just literally something they were we're firing this individual.
That's all they know.
Yeah. They may not know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And how to change their solicits.
Right.
If they need to.
Yeah.
Which, if they do, what a mess.
Right.
I mean, they just didn't republish something or put out a new thing.
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, what this means for 5G is it means the person who had taken on the public responsibility of being the progenitor of 5G is no longer there.
Right.
That's what it means.
Yes.
What we can infer from that is 5G will probably not have the same champions that were there before.
Sure.
It will still happen because money was spent. Things have already been it's easier and cheaper to keep doing what the last guy had set in motion. We may truncate it, and I was talking to Jason Inman about this the other about a month ago, when we were talking about 5G. He said, "How long do you think 5G is going to last?" And I said a year, and he said 5 years. And
I'm for 5G,
and I'm right. But I will say, I said that when you were talking to. We're buddies.
I know.
But I'm right, because there's no way that anyone at DC is going to be like, man, this 5G thing is actually pretty awesome. Well, let's keep it going.
To be fair, we haven't seen it.
Right. It could be amazing.
Their stories could be phenomenal, and I don't all right, my gut reaction and my opinion of just literally hearing what is coming, I'm not a big fan. That doesn't mean once I read it, I may not become a fan.
Right, exactly.
I have a right to change that opinion upon actually having it in my hand and reading it.
True.
That said, it could be that, if whoever... Okay, so first of all, with 5G, we don't actually know...
what it is.
We don't know what it is, and we don't know who's truly involved in it.
And we know a little bit. We know it's a time jump.
I'm gonna say, when I say we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is in terms of, is it a marketing ploy by a larger part of this company?
Yes.
To do whatever it is. Or is it just literally a creative initiative...
that was named by the company.
Right. That was inspired by an individual...
who had a dream and an idea.
Who has now been let go.
Yeah.
We don't know. Honestly. We honestly have no idea.
I assume it's a combination thereof.
Right. But if he was in fact fired due to the fact that they're this is already failing.
Yeah, it hasn't even come out yet. We have no promo art, and it's still a failure.
Which is interesting, because I'm what do you gauge success on?
Right. I have a couple of other books that are then why wasn't Axis canceled?
Sure.
Halfway
you know what I mean?
there's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot of
failures.
There's a lot of, and again, this is all speculation, and this is all just inferring.
Yeah.
But we could also infer that he was fired so that they could be listen, I know you guys don't like this. We got rid of that guy. That wasn't our choice.
Right.
We got rid of him.
Yeah.
We're going to put these out because they've already been made. But we got something in the works already that's going to fix all of this.
Yeah.
So, just hang on for a little bit, guys. We got to just get to the other side.
Right. I would never say that out loud.
No.
Because, that is basically saying you can save yourself 6 months. You don't have to buy any DC comics.
I'm not saying that they're saying it out loud.
Right. They're saying it internally. Yes. Or at least they would be.
In the back of your head, if you're a DC fan and you're not liking where 5G is going, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Because they quote unquote have gotten rid of the person who was behind it.
Who took the blame and responsibility for it.
Doing his job so
he could have very well fallen on his sword.
And it is like that's an inferral right there. Like I'm inferring that that's what it could be. It could be like a higher up tactic to like save the marketing.
Right.
And like maybe less is put into the marketing now for this event.
I can guarantee that'll be the case.
You know?
Dakanaton says, either of you reading the Cantwell Doom series? No. Sorry. Neil.
So you got very serious for a second.
No. Neil and Bradley. Sorry for the change of subject, but are there artists/writers you want to see you under a particular book? Like I've always wanted to see Ivan Rice draw Spider-Man. Keep up the great awesome work. I
would like to see Bilquis Evely do a Doctor Strange book.
Right. That'd be cool. I'd like to see Scott Snyder on a Spider-Man book for a little while.
That'd be kind of fun.
A little while.
I mean, like I would do like a Tynan on Strange as well. Maybe not with Bilquis then I would pull Dan Mora.
Oh, yeah. Shockvox says, I don't know if Jimmy is Superman's buddy. How come he got shot in the friggin' head in BVS without even meeting Clark or Superman once? Great question. You'll have to ask another guy over on a different marketing, on a different social media. I will say that Jenny Olsen was rescued by Perry White. Markel Scott, it's annoying that a phone company has somewhat creative control over a comic company. I agree. I've always had a problem with corporate interference in creative endeavors. The thing about it, I'm not trying to argue it or defend it, but I will say this. All comics are a business.
Sure. I mean, it really is. At the end of the day, like, most art is a business to some degree because
if you want to keep doing it,
the artist has to walk the line of like needing to survive.
Yep, and getting the materials in order to continue doing your craft.
And also like being creative and doing what they want to do. And there is something to be said about comic book artists in the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a comic line coming out at some point where we talk about creative constraints and how I pitch there that like creative constraints at times can help the artist, the writer be more creative.
Yeah.
Not always though. And
No, but it's true. Like there are a million stories you've heard or haven't heard about like your favorite direction. I mean, like the reality, like look at the death in the family. Just use a very small example, like the death of Jason Todd. 900 number. Terrible idea for how to influence story and manipulated by a third party. Like it was not a true democratic decision.
No, and that's
but one of the best decisions.
Sure, and
I love that creative decision.
The outcome ended up working out.
Yeah,
that's not really a creative constraint as much as it is a total influence.
Right, of corporate bullshit.
Right, and like, I guess at times that could be a constraint, but like, it doesn't always work out in the creator's best interest. No. And like, sometimes the constraints are so intense that it's like, there's no point in me writing this.
Yes,
you could get anyone.
Right,
like it doesn't matter.
Well, no, but I need you because your name will carry the cachet in order to sell the thing I'm trying to sell. And it's like, well, then I won't cotton to it.
Yeah, I don't want that.
The fake Grant Morrison, I feel like 5G will end up being more akin to DCU period, while what comes out after gets sorted out.
Yeah,
I think that's true. I think 5G will probably be like a thing that comes out. People will forget about the Didio thing, and they'll say like, "Oh, this is pretty good," or "Oh, this really sucks." Some people will carry a lot of ire for it just because of its like origins.
Yeah,
and ultimately, like there will be a few standout things because ultimately everyone who's working on it is in some measure creative, and there's always the possibility for something true and organic to come out of it.
Right.
So like there's gonna be two sides where like, this is good, this is crap, or like I actually found one or two things that's actually really good about this.
Sure.
And then they'll like and hopefully during the period when like this is on autopilot and 5G is rolling out, they pull their shit together.
No, and that's true. I will say like if you're one of the people who was working on this at the artist, writer, editor, inker, colorist level, like, cover artist. Yeah. This sucks. Because, like, even if you weren't 100% on board, you probably now have the feeling that, like, no one is behind this anymore. Right. Even if you didn't 100% agree with it, you knew that
still were doing it.
One of the people who was steering the ship was on board.
The only person who the owner of the ship left, jumped overboard, and you're like, I didn't even want this boat.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And now I have to steer it.
Right. So it's like, if we can infer that, like, it seemingly is that DC may not be on board I keep saying on board, but, like, be behind 5G.
Yes.
Then that would suck. that may not be the instance. That it could just be the case of like, they're like, no, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we're going to see it through to the end.
Right.
And then we're going to do something else.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they will just be like, haha.
Right. I don't know.
I doubt it.
No.
But I do want to say that we are still inferring things.
True. Master Terrence says, with him gone, who's going to take the blame for DC's mistakes? He was the red herring of the company. Probably Bob Harras. Bob Harras, editor-in-chief. He's been around longer, I think, than Jim Lee. He makes decisions that you can trace, creative decisions that are controversial to him. So he'll probably be the next one. Because people love Jim Lee. Because at the end of the day, Jim Lee's art will protect him from a lot of decisions. Because, like, I hated those pop collars. I know that was his decision. And I didn't see any real fallout from that after the New 52 design. But, like, the fact is everybody loves Jim Lee's art. And no one's going to be like, he sucks. Because they're still going to buy his variant cover.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's Bob. Christopher Santos, improbable, but could AT&T hypothetically let DC Comics go independent and retain the rights for the characters and other media? Love the channel. Thank you very much, Christopher.
Thank you.
That's a great question. What does this mean for DC Comics as a whole?
You guys are helping us out with these transitions.
Right? What does Didio's leaving have to do with DC Comics? What does it mean for DC Comics? And that's where a lot of other people are making money off of this, is by saying, like, well, Dan Didio leaving is a surefire sign that AT&T, because of their debt, is going to sell DC Comics, who owns 26% of the comic book market share. AT&T got a $40 billion subsidy from the government.
Yeah.
AT&T has not made $1 billion off of DC ever.
No.
Like, selling the company, dismantling the company, it would not help.
No, it wouldn't. And honestly, like, what's funny about that is that, like, if you were not selling the rights to the characters in other media, you're not going to make that money.
Right.
Because you're only selling the rights to publish comic books about those characters.
Right. That's not enough. Let's say that they were like, well, we'll just close DC, we'll own the characters ourselves, and then we'll just license them all out. Marvel can make Batman books and such. Like, it's not, the licensing rights would not equate to the amount of debt that AT&T is in.
No.
AT&T is $170 billion in debt. And it's like, I know. And it was largely in part due to their investment in the streaming wars and their efforts to, like, get a lid on the, to enter the market against, like, Disney Plus and Netflix.
Right.
So Warner's develops HBO Max as their competitor. DC has their own app, which seemingly has, like, a bottomless pit of money behind it. I don't know how that works, and I don't pretend to know.
Right.
And I'm not going to speculate about that now. It's a whole different show.
No, exactly. However, it's that type of, like, fact, or, like, not even fact, but, like...
It's those things.
Something that we've noticed.
Yes.
That could be leading people to making that jump to, like, AT&T not respecting the publishing arm of it.
Right.
Because they're already putting so much into the media arm of it.
And we have an event coming out that's named after their new coverage. Yeah. And the reality is, because we're dealing in companies, anything could happen. AT&T could sell DC Comics. AT&T could split DC Comics into 1 million pieces and sell off the characters like it's a garage sale. AT&T could, take $1 billion and infuse it into DC Comics and say, you're your own company now, and, like, we just take a percentage of your intake. Like, AT&T could do any number of things because they are a major multimedia network, and they do have, like, the kind of money, or at least they did, to play around with companies like this. So, like, you could literally say anything about what AT&T is going to do with DC Comics, and you might be right, because they could literally do anything with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they honestly could.
So, with that in mind, what does this mean for the future of DC Comics? What does Dan Didio leaving have anything to do with the future of DC Comics? Well, we know that, and it's all, what we know is, Dan Didio will not work at DC Comics anymore. That's what we know.
We know that.
That's what it means. Right? What it means for DC Comics is, we'll probably never see Dan Didio work at DC Comics again. Like, I might be willing to put myself up on a front street and say, that is something I'm willing to stand behind. Dan Didio will probably never work for DC Comics again.
Right.
Probably.
You never know.
Asterisk. But, like, that's all you can say.
Yeah.
Definitively about what this means for DC. Dan Didio doesn't work there anymore. What you can infer is anything, but Dan Didio being fired by a high-level executive indicates that high-level executives have a vested interest in what's going on at DC Comics, so AT&T may have a vested interest in what's happening at DC Comics. The question I have is, why? Like, why would AT&T give a shit about what's happening at the comic book level when really they should be focusing on the entertainment arm, like multimedia things, streaming services, TV shows, and movies?
Right.
That's what they like. Maybe they should be focusing on why Supergirl looks so terrible. Like, I love Melissa Benoist. I think she looks great. The CG is awful. Like, I'm just saying, like, these are the things that I would be more concerned about because that's really where the money's coming in.
Right, which may then indicate that it wasn't as high level as all that.
Exactly.
Like maybe it's not an AT&T, maybe it's a Warner closer to DC Entertainment.
Yeah, it could be it could be DC Entertainment / Warner Brothers that made that decision.
Right, and that could be if like Warner's, who is definitely more interested in the entertainment arm of
that's
it.
That's their prerogative.
That's their prerogative. Might have looked at like possibly like the fact they're like, okay, like I know we don't really tie much in with the comics anymore in our movies, but maybe they're like for marketing purposes, like this is not going in a way we want, and we want to get comic book fans there because maybe realize that like they are a large part of our like audience who's going to see some of these films.
Well, and like the reason why anyone knows who Batman is has a lot to do with two things. Mm-hmm. One, the comics, and two, the 66 Adam West TV show. Like the show cemented Batman in a cultural mindset. The comics were the thing that got people to know who Batman was.
Right.
So it's like, if I were them, I'd be more interested in like cultural inception.
Yeah.
I'd make these comics available everywhere. I'd be making them more plentiful, more attractive, more available.
They did do that.
Right.
They put them at Walmarts. Yeah. You couldn't find them.
Well, and that was up to Walmart to make them accessible, and like I think that was a failed initiative. Sure. By the way, it was a Didio suggestion. Okay. But I would have backed that decision. I backed that decision.
No, I do. But I agree with you there, but it's like, it's interesting that you say that was a Didio.
Because that was kind of a fail.
Well, it was kind of a fail, but it also speaks to the idea of that cultural reference.
Yeah.
And like of that like idea of getting more eyes on it.
Yeah. So,
there's a lot of, this is going to require like 10 years from now a documentary on this.
Right. Yeah, like what does this mean? We'll get more into it in a minute. But Killa T Storm says, make 5G the ultimate universe. That's how the new timeline, new heroes. It's over there. Doesn't affect anything. Love you guys. Love the show. Thank you very much, Killa.
I like that. The only thing it doesn't solve is the hole.
Right.
There's like too many creators
publishing gap.
Working on this right now that this is where this is going to go, that they may not be prepared or able to get something that quickly.
Yeah. Well, and maybe what they need to do is scale back. I mean, like it would be tumultuous, and it would mean firings, but like, or at least laying off people. But like,
no, it may not mean that. It may mean like you're not publishing a book right now, but you're getting ready for the next 3 months.
That's
you're
true.
Working on that book right now. We got a couple of people who can churn stuff out.
Right, like
we're going to keep Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman,
Justice League,
and Harley Quinn coming.
I mean, like, yeah, right.
We're going to have these books.
Those books
right
are coming
now.
out on a monthly basis.
We'll still have our Black Label and like Hill House books.
Yep.
Same
those are on an automatic timer.
They had nothing to do with 5G. They'll keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we'll just push this 5G to this Ultimate Universe.
Exactly.
Not Ultimate Universe. This
Crisis Universe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's a great idea. Jamie Wild says, I on break at work right now, but just wanted to stop by and say I can't wait to watch the show later.
Aww.
I plan on sending you guys some comics soon. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
And welcome to the repeat. Thanks a lot for being here.
Hi.
Sadathani, should I start to have hope that Wally and Nightwing won't be used like absolute garbage from now on, or keep ignoring them like I do the rest of DC these days, unless it's Tom Taylor? I think those days are over. Like, I think the days of expecting Nightwing, Wally West, and any other Titan to like be screwed over are over.
That's nice.
I think those days are done.
That's nice.
Because I think that was Didio's whole bag.
Right. Now, you know what's interesting? If Jeff Johns could have just kept
Doomsday Clock delayed a little longer, yeah, then there wouldn't be a 5G. Because I promise you.
Well, because then they could have really easily just pushed 5G into some other label.
Yep. No, they could have just, well, they could have not put 5, because I promise you at that last page where it says all the times and stuff like that, 5G, that was not in there.
Right, they could have
They put that in afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. I mean, like the fact is, they could just. I mean, there's no. You know how fast they came up with a hardcover for the first 6 issues of that freaking series? There's no hardcover. There's no trade of the first 12. of the 12 right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because like they're like, well, maybe we'll just drop the hardcover and the trade around the same time and make people more aware of it.
Right, which like
it really depends. If you see Jeff Johns' name a lot more lately, you can expect that Doomsday Clock to get hell. We're gonna reprint the damn thing and just put it all out on time now. TB says guessing characters like Sideways or Kill Speed, who Didio helped create, have less of a shot of coming back now, unless Morrison decides to come back. Yeah, I would expect anything Didio has a very large thumbprint on to be at least put aside, not like executed with extreme prejudice, but like. Anybody, like, all these characters have the potential to be characters.
Sure. I mean, I think it has to do, too, with if he has a deal where it's like he gets a check each time they're used.
That's the other thing.
If he was fired for a reason that they don't care for him any longer, they're not going to want to pay him for anything, and there might be, like, a mandate where it's like, we're not doing that for a while.
Then you're right that the only person who probably could dust them off is Grant Morrison. Official Brolin, I'd love to see the rest of Gerard Way's Doom Patrol and Milk Wars on back issues, Tiffany. Also, thank you for the content and for finally doing metal. Yeah, man, Doom Patrol did pretty well. Milk Wars would not.
No, I don't think Milk Wars would do well. It wasn't well received. It was kind of all over the place-ish.
Yeah.
But the rest of Doom Patrol is pretty cool, and it is back.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Yeah.
Not going to be seeing My Chemical Romance, though.
No, because those tickets are crazy.
I won't be able to bring my, Robot Man Says Hi sign.
Yeah.
I would totally make that.
Right? A couple more nickels for the jar. Hope you liked my comics, says Alan Rosette. Thank you, man.
So much.
I think I did. I'll have to look at my email because just trying to put together literally 2 people sent me their comics recently to check out. So excited. Is 5G still happening? Will AT&T sell off the DC? We talked about that. Hopefully we got to there because we're catching up with the super chats. Official Roland. Also, how did you feel about Witching War?
I liked a lot of it. I don't think that Tynion was rushed, even though I knew he was taking over Batman.
Yeah.
I liked the fact that he addressed a lot of things that he left hanging.
Right.
Quite a bit. And I kind of liked where they left Cersei. I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's a cool little thing that someone might use someday.
Hey.
Probably Tynion.
Master Bater, great name. Will you guys cover any Green Lantern stories from 2016? I love Jessica Cruz. She's the best Green Lantern since Hal Jordan, in my opinion. Not any time in the near future, I'm sorry, but we do have Green Lantern slated for the future. It's kind of just a placeholder, so who knows? But probably not. Eat that horse. At least if 5G sucks, they can just go to Future's End and go that route.
They can just Future End the thing.
Oh, that's it. And go, we were just kidding when we said that this was the future of the DCU. It's an alternate timeline now. Yeah. That's the quickest, easiest, and cheapest way to do it, which is why I wholly expect that to be the case. Tevia says, now that Didio's gone, can Bendis go away too? I expect him to, based on how expensive he is.
Yeah, so I mean,
if we're looking at cut costs.
That's an interesting, topic as well.
Right.
Whose decision was it?
Yeah, who brought in Bendis? Whose decision was it to bring him in at his rate?
Yeah.
I could see him leaving.
Because I could imagine, if speculation, total speculation, if that was Didio's decision. He's the guy, he's the one that had the
who's
final...
we gotta get Bendis,
Or
boom!
he was final okay on that. That was the number, fine, whatever, final okay, shoved it through, whatever. Yep. Someone higher up could be like, I'm sorry, we're spending what?
Right. Per issue?
There's, some accountant somewhere who's finally, square in circles, and they was like,
oh my god! I thought this was all the writers.
We're making what?
Yeah. Yeah, what? Yeah, what number is any one of his books on the top 10? Oh, it's not. Valentino G says,
speculation.
Hope you get well. Thank you very much.
Thank
Your
you.
thoughts on Deceased Unkillables? I'm in. It's great. It's Taylor, and it's Deceased. It's great.
I didn't get a chance.
It's great. It's just more. It's just
yeah.
more Deceased. You know what I mean?
You know, it's funny. I'm glad that they didn't, but they could have just called Deceased 5G, considering its reliance on cell phone.
Yeah. Oh my god. What a brilliant idea. How disappointing. Rusky, besides 5G, is there anything that did happen or is happening at DC that could have led to this, or could it have been a long-term slide under him? Like we said, it's all speculation. We don't know. And I'm sure that anyone who used to work there 5-10 years ago probably doesn't know either. But I would guess in this case, when it comes to 5G, besides 5G, the extreme prejudice for which Didio was ousted and his ability to come out and issue a statement suggests that it was about money and corporate decisions and not because of a character reason.
Sure.
That's my inference on that. Meow, Tiff, please do more shoujo manga reviews. Card captors.
Like Sakura?
Right.
I gotta tell you, if we were ever to do another like shoujo style manga with the guys, I would kind of love to do Madoka because of how much they wouldn't see it coming.
Nope. That'd be great. I accidentally watched all that show with you. I was like, all right, what are you watching? Oh my god, this is great. Alex M. Will Didio's Metal Men make it to 12 issues? I probably not.
What issue is it on now?
Not 12, so no. Like,
well, and again, that depends
know.
Because like when
is it done?
When someone is fired, there's oftentimes like stipulations of like, you know, what can and cannot be done. Like if he was writing something, is that part of his editorial or his publishing position?
Yeah, it could be that he must fulfill any outstanding obligations as his position.
So there's no way of knowing that until we know more about the like facts behind the firing, which we may never know.
Yeah. So excited. So is Marvel DC crossover less or more likely now? I think it's exactly as likely as it was before he was fired.
Yeah.
I honestly do. Because I know it was Paul Levitz when he was working at DC and he doesn't work there anymore. So, like, it is exactly as likely. Yeah. I think the only reason why it might be more likely is if DC were in trouble, which I don't necessarily believe it is, as it is in, like, if it's connected to Didio. Like, I don't think that if DC's in trouble, it's because it's in trouble on its own.
Yeah.
And Didio has very little to do with its actual problem. You know what I mean? So like, no, I don't think it's happening, but I also don't think that it's likely because now he's not here. Are there any artists or writers you wouldn't be surprised exiting or being forced out following this as MoF Social Club? I would expect a few like Didio loyalists to leave. No. Honestly, like I would have expected that if it was like a solidarity move, but like honestly, the comic book industry is very cutthroat and it's very competitive and it's very small and it's very desperate. And so anyone who works there now would be smart to stay only because A, stick your neck out, you'll never get rehired. Right. B, if you're not getting fired because of your association with the Dio, then you got through it. And so they didn't, because like that's more likely is that like anyone who they think would be connected to Dio now should leave. I don't think anyone would voluntarily leave.
And again, that depends on the reasoning behind his release. Now, it could be that we see, instead of maybe firings or people leaving, we see some restructuring of contracts.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like terms of employment. Like, okay, some of you, we're gonna go back through and we're gonna change some things up.
I would use this as an opportunity to clean house, honestly. And restructure, but like that's because I'm like a stickler and I want to like have things cleaned up.
But like to them, if they chose to do that, they may see that as like possibly like they're like, but that might come off as weak.
Exactly. The thing is,
like that something was wrong.
But for me, the thing is like to whom?
I don't know.
You know, like Marvel does not. I don't think Marvel regards DC as a competitor anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think that they're really competitors at this point. I think that the people who are going to buy a Batman book are going to buy a Batman book, whether it's published by IDW, DC, Marvel. Who cares? I think the people who are going to buy Spider-Man books are going to buy Spider-Man books to the end. I think it's about creators, and I think it's about loyalty.
I guess. I mean, I think it's also about getting that number one slot. Like, I think each month they want that spot.
They do, because they're they're in an insulated small
but they're also being owned
industry.
I think being owned by those parent companies, being able to point to that.
Yes. Well, it justifies their existence.
It justifies their existence to those who don't understand the ebb and flow of the comic book industry. Right. And never will.
No.
Because, like, people who, like, when you're owned by something that large, who owns so many other things,
it's easy to be marginalized.
It's easy to be marginalized. It's also easy to have someone in charge of you who doesn't fundamentally understand what it is that they're in charge of.
I wholly believe Disney has no interest in book publishing.
Right.
So which is indicative by the Marvel books being published by IDW.
Right.
Like they just don't care.
But if you can quantify it with a list.
Right, but what's funny is for me it has to be lists with names and not financial numbers, because for them they're going to go like, we sold 125,000 units this year, like, or this month.
But I was going to say, like, I think for them the lists that are important are like that top 10, like these are the top 10 selling books, and here are the percentage of the market that we own.
Right. Like, oh, you own 67% of the market share.
Sounds great. Good job. I'll see you in a couple months.
Right. See you the next quarter. I think it has more to do with like our books being like, is it on the New York Times bestseller list?
Sure.
It's prestige as opposed to it is.
Which is
money.
why I'm sure we're seeing a lot of like novelists being hired on, because it's like, again, a lot of these people are trying to keep their jobs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like the people who are editors and, you know, like the publishing heads.
Yeah.
They want to keep their job. Like, they want to, maybe they are passionate about comics.
Well, and they worked very hard to, or at least they, you know, they're in this industry.
Yeah, they need to get a paycheck.
And they know that this industry is not for making money.
Right, but they're no longer just a publishing house that's, like, operated by people who just know comics.
Right.
Their own, and, like, there are outside influences of people who are just like, my son knows Batman.
Right.
Do we have him?
We literally...
No, we're Marvel.
Yeah. No, we're Marvel. Well, can we get him?
No.
By the way, I wanted to spell this right now. I don't think Disney's going to buy DC. And the reason why for that is because I think that DC has $1 billion+ price tag attached to it.
Sure.
This is if AT&T were to sell it, or if AT&T were to, like, fall apart, or if, like, you know, they were to antitrust it up and break up all the companies. Disney is in and of itself a little bit of debt due to their investment in Disney Plus. They're not looking to spend $4 billion on, like, that.
That said, I mean, like, if we're going down the, like, you know, imaginary, like, timeline where that happens, like, that'd be neat.
Right.
It would be interesting.
It would be fascinating.
It would be fascinating is the correct word.
Right, because it wouldn't necessarily be good or bad. It would just be
because
like,
it's like now one person owns all of that, and does that really bolster creativity?
Right.
And is it worth getting that crossover? Because, like, now they cross over whenever they
want.
Right.
Well, a lot of people would say no. But
yeah, I hear you.
But when it comes to, like, Disney, you know, like, they could just buy Spider-Man outright, but, like, because of the billions of dollars they've already invested and that they owe, it's like, we can't afford to spend $5 billion on Spider-Man, like, to get the movie rights.
Right.
But, like, you know, but maybe it's worth $2 billion to get Batman.
And I mean, like, again,
and I guess the Green Lanterns.
Now we're down this imaginary pathway still. That means in Disney World we're definitely seeing, like, Gotham and Metropolis.
Yeah, since the friggin' Universal Studios thing is not ending anytime soon, we're just gonna be like, all right, well, just all Batman. Lucha Dandy, April Fool's video idea, back issues on manga. We did it already, man. We did a whole episode, and it was not April Fool's. I don't need to wait for a joke to do that.
It was a hilarious topic
because
it was Sailor Moon. And I think Ben and Ethan got a true understanding that there was more to that manga.
Oh, big time. The fake Grant Morrison, I don't know, but I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm sure there's some AT&T executive that saw Rick Grayson and thought, my beloved character, who did this? Yeah.
I just love that butt.
Can you imagine there's like some kid at DC or like whose dad is the head of AT&T who's like, you got to get this Didio guy. He has ruined all my comics. I mean, like, stranger things have happened. Spawn has an action figure line because Todd McFarlane sold his toy designs. He didn't have sculpts, prototypes, nothing. He had his art. Mm-hmm. He drew toys. He put them on a card table at a toy fair in like a hotel room. And the head of Toys R Us, his kid was with him, and the kid read Spawn. So the kid said, those, you got, and the guy's like, are you serious? He doesn't even have prototypes. Like, I'm not investing in that.
Yeah.
I'm not like taking a gamble on that. And the kid's like, you trust me. That's the reason why Todd McFarlane has a career besides his art career.
No, it's true. And it's amazing, like, how much outside influences, family influences have on some of these larger executives who, again, when you're in charge of all of these different things,
they don't get it.
Well, no, it's not like just that, but like you can't be a master of each thing.
Right.
Like you have a vague understanding of all of the different elements.
Right.
But like your job isn't to know everything about it. It's to surround yourself with people who do.
Yeah, and I could see
and
them
they don't
being
always do that well.
Well, and I could see them being like, we rely on you guys to know how to run your business, and you don't.
Yeah.
So you're fired. I mean, like, it could be. Like, why are you only 26% of the market share and Marvel's 40%? And
it's like, because...
There's only two companies.
Because whims, man.
I mean, like, yes, there are independent publishing labels, but like...
jeez, come on.
No, but I'm saying, in their eyes...
Yeah, it's just the two.
But yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to what we know, what we don't know, what it means, the AT&T debt thing is a different topic. But I see it connected to the Didio thing, which is why I wanted to get in front of it a little bit, just to say, like, yes, AT&T owes a fuckload of money.
Right.
Yes, AT&T has control over DC Comics and its future. No, I don't think that selling DC is in the cards for AT&T because, honestly, it just doesn't equate to the net gain.
No, unless...
It just doesn't make them the money they need to become solvent
Unless they sold, like, everything, it still wouldn't be enough. And, like, they'd have to sell...
Warner Brothers, like, everything.
Yeah.
They'll have to break the whole thing apart, and they just invested in HBO Max. Is it even out yet?
Mm-hmm.
like there are 2 apps. They're still they're still in practically test phases.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. We don't have all the answers. I don't see it happening. But I will say this: the likelihood of Disney buying DC is low based on the debt, but also because Warner Brothers and Disney executives hate each other.
Sure.
And I think that the closest thing you'll see is something like Amazon buying DC.
Which is interesting. And
if Amazon did buy DC, you're not missing a beat. No. Because it's just DC continuing to do their thing.
They would just do their thing. The only thing, and again, speculation and just following
this
point.
Is all speculation.
Just following this point, this speculative, fictional point.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
That my biggest question from that would be, what would happen with Comixology, who is now also owned by DC?
Right? Would they
Amazon?
Boot Marvel out of Comixology and make it only DC exclusive? I say no. I say no, because there's money to be made from the Marvel.
Right, but you'd still always question how well are Marvel.
Well, we don't even know what digital sales look like anyway.
No,
we'll just never know, as opposed to maybe one day finding out. No, Comixology, I think if Amazon bought DC, they'd fold it into Comixology, they'd close the app, DC Universe would end, HBO Max would end, it would all get folded into Prime, and all those shows would be developed, and Comixology would be, you see a lot more blue.
Man, my Amazon Prime account would really come in a lot bigger handy then.
Yeah,
other
that's
than just
true.
Desperately trying to get gifts for people at the last moment.
Right. But Amazon owning DC, I think you'd see a crossover then.
I could definitely see them. They're like, I don't care.
Who cares?
Good.
Yeah, whatever.
You guys did this before? How'd it do?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Did it do well?
Oh, it outsold the highest grossing comics of the month by 50,000 units.
Okay.
The third issue in that crossover.
Right.
Yeah, you're hired. Do it. But so lot to be digested.
You know what's amazing about that too?
Yeah.
Is all right. We're still in fantasy land here, people. Fantasy land. Amazon could come to the table and be like, you know what? We're all worried about those publishing rights. We'll just put it out through Comixology digital exclusive.
Right. Which
is great for us, and then we'll sell some of the, and then we'll put out trades of it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Are you kidding me? Honestly, I mean, I want to see.
But again, I know the Comixology thing is also a whole nother topic in terms of how it affects brick and mortar stores. Yeah. So again, Fantasyland though. Yeah. Talking about that.
Exactly. But so let us know in the comments down below what if you're watching this after the fact, of course.
Yeah, and if you're watching this way after the fact, obviously I'm sure more information has come out, and hopefully we've all.
Well, we'll have a lot more information. We'll be able to speculate even further.
Yeah.
But hopefully have more answers. But let us know what your favorite DC book is coming out right now.
Right.
Because I'm interested in because I have to assume it can't just be Batman. I know that there are more. I'm just saying
mine's Justice League Dark.
Right? Yeah.
Actually, mine is as you're subbing up, my favorite DC book coming out right now. Yeah, listen to that fantastic tape. I could have pulled the tape off.
Right? Oh, we're not done. Oh. Jeffrey Condolo says, hello there, having my break at the moment and enjoying the show. Idea for an April Fool's back issues, a Tintin book. Adventures of Tintin. Maybe we'd actually break into the European market.
Is that how you say
it? It's pronounced, I think, Tantan.
Oh.
But I say Tintin.
It's Tintin.
And so do they in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in the comments, I just wanted to say this out loud because I feel like we've talked about this already.
Sure.
But I really think it's important to reiterate. Insert name of YouTuber says that this is going to happen is a made-up thing.
Well,
it's not fact.
Sure. No, it may not be fact, but I think it's fair if someone's saying that in order to start conversation.
But they're not doing that.
I know, and I'm just saying, this is how it does work. If you want to be like, hey, someone said this, what do you think about that
But
idea?
they're not asking what I think about that. They're saying, this is fact because so-and-so said it. And it's like, no. It's only fact if Didio says it, someone who works with Didio says it.
Right. And that doesn't mean...
The company says it.
Also, I've seen definitely where, our videos, other people's videos, where it's at the time, someone said blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And, maybe, if that person turns out to be correct,
right.
that, comes out later on that maybe something... I didn't see what it was, so I can't say. But, that's true. That doesn't indicate that they knew at the time. And then you can't yell at us.
That's the most frustrating thing.
And it's yeah, but, all we're trying to do is look at this from an objective standpoint.
And that's the thing that drives me crazy is because it's there is enough opinion.
Mm-hmm.
There is enough outrage. There's enough misinformation without people saying, here's what's true. because I want you to click on my video / article.
Right.
And it's like, these people are opportunists. And there's an expression, and I'm sure like, the sun even shines on a dog's ass some days. It's a broken clock is right twice a day.
I like that one better.
If you say enough shit out loud, eventually you will be validated. And maybe you have a connection to somebody who used to work for the company who has some insider information, but that's not fact. Those are all opinion-based. And it's like, you need, if you want to share your opinion and have a respectful discourse with people, it's your responsibility as a thinking individual to have critical thinking skills to be able to say, is that real? Is that valid? Is that true? Hey, even if it's just to have the caveat, and it's not politically correct, it's just to cover your own ass, to say, hey, I don't know if this is true, but I heard.
Yeah.
Because at least then you're admitting that it may not have roots in reality or fact, or that it may have roots in someone who has an agenda that they want to further, to further sow dissent. And it's like, you don't know what the motivations are from these outlets that are saying things just to say them, just to be right, just to get money. It's like, purely just for money, I get that. But then there's also people who are like, I want to also like change the narrative, control this, have my impact, get a little dig on the industry, or screw over so-and-so. And it's like, you can't give them that much power. And the way to take it away is to just have scrutiny, critical thinking, is to just say out loud, hey, is that true? Where are your facts? What are your facts? Well, I know. That once somebody goes like that, then you're like, okay, well then I know that I can't put my full faith in what they're saying. Right. Because they don't. I'm sorry. Like I don't want to call anybody out. I'm not trying to like make anybody feel bad. It's just like it's like no one's teaching this shit. And it's like, you need to hear this because like it's very important. It's not just important in comics, it's important in life. It's important for you to be like present. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I fully agree.
Sado Thani says Tom Taylor is my favorite DC book. Yeah, right. He is the book. I will say I wouldn't. You could make Tom Taylor chief creative officer, and that wouldn't be a bad idea. Radical Radish, I'm loving Lois Lane in the question right now. I'm saying when the show's over, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your support.
I'm loving your name.
Yeah, Radical Radish. I've seen it. I love that. You're a fan of you're a fan of the show. But yeah, just. Yeah, so I'm done talking about this. The Didio conversation is now over. Thank you so much for hanging out. Tiffany, what do you got for us?
All I want to talk about really quickly, because we've been on for a while.
Yeah,
there's no more timer.
No, there is. It's been an hour and 30. It's been an hour and a half. Jeez. I think my plan was 40 minutes.
Okay, cool. This was my favorite book of the week. Here it is. It's Plunge. I will say it is ages 17 plus for any of our younger viewers out there.
You could. Just go get it.
There is just
they're not gonna cry.
No, but like I don't want to be the person who like parents come in and they're like, what is that? Because there was a moment in there it's like, what is that?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
They'll never know the cover.
I'm just saying. It's Joe Hill and Stuart Immonen.
Yeah.
This was incredible. If you like Joe Hill, if you just like good storytelling, if you like The Thing, the John Carpenter The Thing, you are probably going to dig this. This was tight. I think this is better than Basket Full of Heads. I think it's a totally different tone, but I think it's way better than that book. I like that book. I love this book. It's one issue in. I'm so on board. There were so many little nods to The Thing from the first page of like clearly.
Oh, that dog looks familiar.
The dog looks familiar. The guy looks familiar. He does look like the guy, the dog master.
Oh yeah.
Captain of one of the boats is Captain Carpenter. One of his brothers is Clark.
Oh no!
I was like,
watch him close.
Watch Clark.
Watch Clark.
This is incredible. It is a total nod to like lots of like older horror films, but with like a modern spin with Joe Hill behind it. Yep. It's a story he clearly wants to tell. The art is phenomenal.
Stuart Immonen.
Yeah, Stuart Immonen. It's so good.
He's so great
looking. It has like. There's like, the undersea, like obviously every time there's anything with the ocean, you obviously think Lovecraft. Yep. There are like giant squids immediately in this.
Invoking that imagery, yeah.
Sure, whether or not we see that go on, I don't know. There's obviously something to do with space involved as well.
Cool.
Like an abandoned ship, like 40 years old, has come back after a tsunami which killed many giant squids, which is like really messed up.
Yep.
And a beacon is back. They're in Russia. They're like on this like little secret ops mission. It's like a ragtag team of salvagers and a chick who knows about like biology. Ooh. And they have to.
So they all sound familiar, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
like
cool,
I'm so in on this. If you do dig like thrillers, if you dig horror, I would highly recommend this. And I just had to mention this
Plunge
because I wasn't sure I was going to get a chance to remember.
But hey, speaking of DC Comics, right? Like
yeah, like
this is a DC book.
This is a DC book, but like. I've like each Hill House book. I'm like, oh, I'm really digging this. I'm really digging this. Like, I'm just like, I honestly don't see one coming out that I'm gonna like more than this one right now.
Well, we'll see.
So incredible.
But I'm glad it's coming out.
The art is so good.
I can't believe they got Imminent out of retirement to do it.
It's so incredible. By the way, this is what I was talking about. It's hilarious. He finds a salvage shipment of those.
Oh my god.
It's yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So I was like, 17 plus.
Yeah.
It is a mature book.
Wisdom Toast. I was asking if you think AT&T would raise comics to $3.99 from $3.99 to $7.99 for 5G because it's a very scary thought. Comics are expensive already, and I love DC. Made up? It's fake. No, they're not going to do that. Like, they're not going to do that. Sorry.
Well,
like,
okay.
Here's the thing: if the books were 45 pages long, 50 pages long,
so
yeah.
Like, and that's one of those instances where it's like, if someone said that and
Right.
they had some sort of information, it could be information that is not 100%.
Exactly.
Maybe. If 5G ends up being more like a black label length book, they might feel like they have to charge that much because of the fact that it's like you're getting more content for it.
Right.
But without having all that information, I can't really critique that. I mean, like,
Yeah, would I spend $7.99 on a book? I have.
But like, I question it each time I do.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to give the purchaser more value.
Here's the thing. Here's why they're not doing here. Okay. If they're charging $7.99 for a book, if they were doing that, devil's advocate for a made-up thing, if they were going to charge $7.99 for their bottom line, if the company that coined the phrase holding the line at $2.99 was going to suddenly make their books $8 a pop on a monthly basis.
When did they coin that?
When did they coin that?
Yeah.
At Rebirth, I think. Or before Rebirth.
$3.99.
Oh no, they abandoned that. They abandoned that like in less than a year.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but if they were gonna do that,
yeah,
they are gonna. Then they're doing it because they're adding pages and they're making it like perfect bound and they're adding like spot UV covers. Like they are giving it more. They're not just gonna because here's the thing. The comic book industry knows how much books should be and how much the market can support.
Yeah.
Right? Marvel publishes too many books a month, and they know that. But they're saturating the market. Like, that's their strategy. A strategy of making, like, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, like, and Harley Quinn $7.99 is not a strategy. And it's certainly not a strategy from AT&T because we're talking about a company that's worth billions of dollars, owes $170 billion. They're not going to recoup that loss by selling, what, 12 books a month?
No. I mean,
12 books a month at $8 a pop at 100. Even if they were the top selling books of the month. We're talking about 80 to 100,000 units. Just the math don't add up.
The only place I could see them doing something like that and feeling like they had to was to recoup their losses of Bendis.
Right.
And like just on Bendis books, you're like, you're paying for it because we got it.
Right. But
that doesn't make any sense. And like, honestly,
no
from that top tier, like if you think, if it's like a question of like, since AT&T or Time Warner doesn't get it, so they don't understand the publishing company, wouldn't they be just like, just jack up the prices?
Right.
Typically what would happen is they would have a market research team come in and do outside, like surveys on like what the market could support. They'd have to do research on it. They'd have to come in and be like, we found that like your clientele is willing to pay this. We've looked at their average income. We've looked at what they typically buy. And we've looked at like what it is that they're willing to go up to and for what reason. Yeah.
If this information came from like a source of a person who like was like, AT&T sent me this random survey about buying comic books and how much I'd be willing to spend. Like then it's like, oh, that actually has like some kind of basis in reality. But like just saying, you know what? Oh, AT&T owes on all money, so maybe they'll just take it out of your ass. Like no.
I think that would be like, from the business side of it, I feel like they wouldn't just jump into that. If they were going to ever get there, it would be a slow, quiet raise. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where it was like you didn't notice it.
Exactly.
Except you did.
Well, what they would do is if they wanted to really do it, they'd like... if I were doing it, I'd like make Batman... What is it, $3.99? I'd make it $4.99, and I'd add it like 3 extra pages.
You'd have to find out the page, like... cost like ratio that like worked in your favor as the company as opposed to the reader.
Right. Rusky says Tom Taylor's an amazing author, but is it really a good idea for a company to have their highest selling events helmed by someone who not under a tight contract? I mean, no, not necessarily. I was just speculating on a fake thing, but like, he's great. And yeah, I mean, like if I were DC, I would put Tom Taylor under a tight contract. Wisdom Toast, thanks for the discussion. Love your channel. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much.
Kevin Myers, I always miss these. Have some money. Thank you for Kevin.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry you missed it, but
Catch it on the repeat.
I'm hopeful you caught most of this. So yeah, check out Plunge. Check out this channel. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for checking out Off the Rack. Tomorrow we got another live show, Elseworlds Exchange, and then Wednesday we got a big show called Back Issues, where we dive into a trade and talk about it and tell you what happens. It's a lot of fun. You'll enjoy this channel if you subscribe. I promise. There's a lot of fun shows. There's something for you. I promise you. That's it. So we'll see you guys next time. Hey, welcome back. Or welcome, new guy. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm Sal.
I'm Tiffany.
And that's it. So welcome to the show. Thank you for hanging out.
Yeah.
And
thanks for going on this like
thought
inferral
exercise.
and like speculative conversation about some real events that have happened.
It's true. Yeah. No, thank you for engaging and also for, indulging us because we do appreciate it. But yeah, we'll see you guys then. So long, everybody.
Bye, guys.